Hi everyone, welcome to Everything Data Analytics and to this Power Query tutorial series. So in this tutorial, I will guide you through how to use Power Query in Excel to clean, to transform data, and also to automate your data processes. So whether you are dealing with messy data sets or looking for streamline repetitive tasks, this series will help you to unlock the full potential of Power Query. So let's get started. So before we go into that, for those who does not know what Power Query is all about, so Power Query is a tool that helps you to get data from various sources. You can get data from various sources, from online data, web data. You can get data from file, folder, PDF file, from Excel, text or CSV file. Into you can get data from various data sources in Power Query. And so you use that data to once you get that data into Power Query, you can then use Power Query to clean, to transform, and also to prepare your data set for analysis. So in Power Query, you can perform ETL, that is, you can extract data, you can transform data, and you can also load the data set for your analysis. You can load the data set and to prepare it for your analysis. So in Excel, you call it Power Query, and then in Power BI, you call it Power Query Editor. So as a data analyst, it is very important to clean your data set, because if your data set is not properly clean, your analysis will be incorrect. There will be inconsistent. You will be having error in your analysis. So cleaning of data is very important in our data analysis process. So it is important for us to also learn how to use Power Query to or clean data. So Power Query is an important tool to use for data cleaning. I would say Power Query is a powerhouse or an engine tool for analysis for Excel and also for or Power BI. So I'll be using different cases. So in this series, I'm going to be using different scenario. I'll be using different case study for this tutorial series. So we'll be having different series for the next couple of weeks on how to use Power Query Editor properly to clean our data and to transform our data, which is also used to transform our data, and then from there we can to be suitable for all for the data to be used for analysis. So now I'll be using different case study, and for this first tutorial now I'm going to be using this as employee expenses versus allowance. So in this particular scenario, we want to find out which salesman, which or salesperson, which that is spending over more than their actual allowance that was given to them. So in sales teams, they are given allowance, that is this particular the sheet, this particular allowance is the actual allowance that they are the fixed allowance that they are giving. This is the fixed allowance they are giving whenever they are traveling for their traveling expensive. So they are giving this particular allowance. So you can see that we have the division, and then we have the grade here and their allowance. So now this particular actual allowance now is the which is the first sheet, is shows the data set for the actual amounts that they spend while traveling. So this one is the fixed amount that they were giving. So this is the actual amount they spend while traveling. So what we want to know is we want to know which of the salesperson overspent more than the allowance they were giving, and which one is spending lower than what they were giving. So you can also apply this to different scenario that you have while using this video. So now to get this done now, I need to put this, we need to put this data into the Power Query for us to clean the data. So we need to have our data set in this format also for us to actually get what we want. So you can also use functions in Excel, but Power Query will help us to, or to, the essence of using Power Query again is it will make our data to be dynamic, meaning whenever you update your data in the actual sheet, it will automatically update in the clean data. So you don't need just for you to click refresh once you update, once you add data to your actual sheet. So the next thing is just for you to refresh. So now we start with our by importing our data to Power Query. So what you do now is, to do that you have to click inside the data range that you want to use. So I'm using one of these sheets now. So now I'm going to be using this. Click inside this data, then go to data, then click from table range. So from table range, it has selected the range of data that we click on. So so if you click outside the table, you see where it's selected. So you have to click from table range. You click inside the table, that the data range that you want to or use. So I'm clicking this now. Then if this is not checked from your hand, kindly check it. So now click OK. So by clicking OK, it will take us to Power Query. So it will take us to Power Query Editor. So it is also known as Power Query Editor, both in Power BI, Power BI and or what's it called? Both in Power BI and also in Excel. It is called Power Query Editor. So I think the other time I said Power Query in Excel. So, but it is also known as Power Query Editor in Excel and also in Power BI. So now we start by bringing, this is our data now, this is the first data, and we can, this is the first data now, we can call it the or actual, you can call it actual. So now the next thing, now you can rename it here. The next thing is to bring the other data here, and to bring this the second data. So, and to do that, we have to click, is either you click on new source and then go to file, or you click on this. So if you click this, if you click on recent, so you might not see this here, you might not see your or the other data, the other sheets here. So all you need to do now is, you can close, if you want to use recent source, you close this, you close okay, you close this and load, so and save. But if you don't want to use recent source and you want to click on new source, so now you go to new source, file, depending on the type of data that you have. So I'll go to file because I have an Excel workbook. Then go to Excel workbook, then look for that particular data set that we are using. So this is the particular data set that we are using. Then, and it will show, so I've clicked on that, so it's loading now to Power Query Editor. So now, this is, I already have my actual expensive there. So what I need to bring now is my allowance. So now bring the allowance here. So now we have our, still loading. So now I have my actual and then my allowance here now. So now the next thing that I need to do now is, I need to get this or this allowance. I need to or use, we use Unpivot or function in Power Query Editor to make it in this way. So what I will do now, click on the allowance, then click the first column, right click on it, and then you now click on Unpivot other column, Unpivot other column. So we have it, is loading. So once we click on Unpivot other column, it will actually make it in this format. It will give us in this format. So let's go back and check. Okay, still loading. So if I click on Unpivot column, if I click on pivot column, it will not give us what we want, but we need to use Unpivot other column. So this is still loading. So now we have it here. So this, you can see now that this is division. If you see, we have division or column also here. Then we have our attribute. This attribute, you can rename it as grade because it's also as grade there. So you can just rename it to what you want. Then this is our allowance. So you can rename it as allowance. So now we have our table ready. So now the next thing now is to merge the table. So what we need, we just want to merge the table into one table. We want to merge it into one table. So, and what we need here is the allowance table. We need to add the allowance table. We need to add it here. So how do we do that? And we are going to be making use of merge function in Power Query Editor. So we make use of merge function in Power Query Editor to add to that. So now, to merge the two column, the two table together. So now go to merge query, click on the first table, which is the actual that you want to. So merging is, I want to merge the second table and and this allowance and the actual table together. I want to merge them together. So now I'll click on the first table, which I need all the information, where all the information are. Then I'll click on match query. Then I will match query as new. I'll match query as new. Now still loading. So now we have our actual table here. Which table do you want to match? Allowance. No, now how do you now merge them? So you have to merge them based on what you want. So I'm merging based on division. Then I'll hold your control key down. Then again merge this again, grade. Then hold your control key, still holding it. Then you are merging these two columns together based on this. Then you click OK. You click OK. So our two table now has been merged together. It has been merged together now. Now you can now rename this. I will just rename it as database. So it has, so this is the merge table now. So now how do we now, you need to expand this table. So we need to expand this table for us to, or we need to expand it now for us to see the other, or to use the, for us to be able to extract our allowance here. So now I'm going to remove whatever I don't need there, then click on this. So now this is our allowance table. So you can see that it's writing allowance. So you can actually remove one of this, or you can rename it allowance. So now this is my allowance table now, allowance column here. So I have my actual expense, see, then grade, division, the name and the hide it. So we have our full database here now for the employee. Now the next thing now is, how do we now know the employee that spent, or that spend more than the actual, more than the or actual allowance that was given? How do we know the employee that spent more than that? So what we need to do is we use conditional or column to create a remark. So this remark will actually help us to know if they spend more than the allowance that was given, or if they spend less than that. So how do we do that? We go to add column. then click on conditional column. So once you click on conditional column, it will bring this box. So now we have our conditional column here. So now you have to rename this, name it as remark. Then we have to put our condition. Input your condition. If actual expensive is greater than, now you know, now we want to know is greater than. Now here you have to click another condition, either you enter the value or you are selecting a column. For here we are selecting a column. So now which is greater than which column? Is greater than allowance. Then click over limits. So now else click under limits. So if it is not, if it's now less, you click under limits, you put under limits here, and then click OK. So you can see now that we have over limit, under limit. So now I'm not spending the over limits very well. I didn't spell it very well. So you can actually go back. This is apply step. You can go back to different steps that you have used before. So if I want to go back to the rename, I can go back. So this is the last step that we use. So I can click here, double click on this place, then I'll go back here and change whatever I want to change there. So I didn't spell it very well, so I had to correct the spelling. I click OK. So now we have this. Now we have our full database. Now the next thing for us is to load. So you close and load. So I close and load this, and it will bring us back to this place. So now our data is loading now to back to our Excel file. So we have our database data, the merged data that we have as database. We have it here now. So now our data is getting ready to be loaded. So we have this allowance that we added, then the actual allowance that we use, then our actual table, actual expensive table, then the actual allowance table that we have, that we used to match together in Power Query Editor. So this was the actual allowance that I created, that we loaded into Power Query Editor. So this is how it came out. So now this is our full, okay, our database is still loading. So now we have our database here now. So one thing I want you to note is, the key things I want you to note here is that this data set is dynamic. This data set is actually dynamic. That is, if you are adding to your actual table, if you are adding to this table now, it will automatically change here once you refresh. So let's do that. So let's assume that I have new data here. I have new data, and the ID of the two people are maybe 113 and 114. So now the name of that person is Kiton, and the other name of the other person is Bethel. So now, and their division also is MT, then ET. So we have let's say they are A6, then A A5, A6, A6, let's use A6, A6. Then their actual expenses, what they spend is 1,500 and 1,600. So now we have that now. So now how do we now update it here? How do we, this is where we or add our data. We've added data to this place now. Now we want to add update it here. So all we need to do is just to click refresh. Once we click refresh, you can see now that this is the data, this is the name of the person we've added, 113, then 1111 or 1114, 114, 113 and 114. You can see now that it automatically changed. So if you use this to actually create a report or dashboard, it will automatically change. It will automatically change. You can see the power of Power Query Editor. Now there is a reason it is called Power Query Editor. So you can see the power of it now. You can see how it makes our work easier and also make our life easier while using Excel. So if you find this video very useful and you've learned new thing, kindly click the comment section, give me feedback, help me to share, like, and most importantly, subscribe to my channel. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe to my channel, because I'll be giving more series video tutorial on Power Query Editor in the coming weeks. And you can also check my channel. You will find different video on Power BI, or on Tableau, on Excel, on Looker Studio, and different things that you need that will help you to or actually improve your skills as a data analyst. Whatever you need as a data analyst is very right there in my video or in my channel. Kindly click or click the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel and also explore this page. Thank you very much. Bye.